we want to help you at whatever level you're at as an athlete. We want to get you, we want to keep you involved or get you to that next level. Something that I hear a lot as I go to conferences and just talk with people in the public is, well, I'm not an athlete, or what makes me an athlete? And I commonly tell people, you're an athlete, whether you know it yet or you don't know it. If you have to ask that question, then maybe we just need to get you connected with the right kind of people that are going to bring that out of you. Because if your heart's beating, if you're moving, if you have a desire to be active, you're an athlete. And then we want to help you with the next steps so you realize that as well.
You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryant.
And I'm Sean Baumsart. Together, we're navigating life with disability.
Welcome back to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This is episode 23. Today we're going to be talking about equipment grants and specifically the Challenge Athletes Foundation equipment grant. But before we get started, Sean, how's it going?
What up, Kyle? It's going great. Glad to be here again.
Awesome. Sounds good. So in 2006, I started riding a trike, and I loved it. But it wasn't a high-performance machine that I needed to accomplish the athletic goals I had for myself. And the one I needed cost about $3,000, and I don't have $3,000 just laying around. I don't know. Do you, Sean?
Nope. I did once.
Yeah, but you lost it or something? What happened?
I don't know. I bought a house or something stupid.
Okay.
Actually, last time with you, I bought a car.
Oh, yeah. So there it went.
Yeah.
All right. So I had this trike in mind that I wanted, and that would allow me to go further and faster, but I didn't have the money, right? So a friend told me about the Challenge Athletes Foundation and their equipment grant program, and it kind of blew my mind because I didn't have any idea there was anything like that out there. And he had received a Challenge Athletes Foundation grant for like super sweet like hand cycle and some awesome really fast wheels or something. And so I applied, and I put a ton of effort into my application, and I received funding to allow me to buy my CAF 700. And awesome. It has served me really well, and it allowed me to participate in the world's toughest bike race. And so the grant cycle for the Challenge Athletes Foundation for this year, it opened a few weeks ago. And so we wanted to feature the Challenge Athletes Foundation and talk about the grant cycle a little bit and just talk about the organization. So joining us is Patrick Lawrence. He is Senior Program Manager at Challenge Athletes Foundation, and he is going to tell us a little bit about CAF and Access for Athletes. So welcome, Patrick.
Good morning, guys. How are you today?
We're doing good. How are you? What are you up to in sunny California?
I am well. Just enjoying the beautiful weather and the opportunity to put these grants to good use.
Awesome. So you're in San Diego, is that correct?
I am. Yeah. I've been in San Diego for a few years, and with CAF for 2 of the 3 years that I've lived here in San Diego.
Nice. So do you enjoy the beaches down there?
A little bit, yeah. I grew up in the middle of the country, so it's not as much of kind of what I grew up with, but I aspire to get to the beaches a little more often.
Nice. That's what I was going to ask. Where did you come from? Because there's not very many places quite like San Diego.
Yeah, I grew up in Oklahoma City, just right in the middle of the country, and lived there for most of my life, and had a short stint in Denver, about 6 years there, and then have moved to San Diego in 2014. And it's been great. I love it out here.
Awesome. All right, Patrick. I want you to tell us how you got involved with CAF, but before that, I want you to tell us a little bit about CAF and what's the focus of the organization, and what are the types of activities that you guys do?
Yeah, happy to do so. So Challenge Athlete Foundation is a nonprofit organization that started in 1994. The organization has been growing kind of in paces over the years, where it started out being a bunch of guys that got together to help grant one person, a friend of theirs, who was injured in a triathlon training accident. They put on a triathlon to help fund an accessible van for him. His name was Jim McLaren. And Jim was an early Ironman competitor. For a while, he held the world record for an amputee racing Ironman in Kona. And so he had a training accident after already becoming an amputee that forced him to require a wheelchair for mobility. He needed a van to get around. So three of his close friends in the tri community put together a triathlon in San Diego, which really kind of equated to the first grant that CAF ever gave. And it's just grown from there. Last year, we were able to give out about 1,950 grants. So from one many years ago, grew
crazy.
to almost 2,000. Yeah.
That's an amazing jump. In just over 20 years, 23?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. In that span of time. And we're fortunate to do a lot of community outreach. We have camps and clinics that we do throughout the year, both in San Diego and then also around the country. We work closely with OSER, Orthotics and Prosthetics. We do usually 7 to 8 run and mobility clinics to help people who have a prosthetic learn how to improve their mobility and or run. So we do those. We do some triathlon camps. And then we also kind of the jewel in our crown is our annual San Diego Triathlon Challenge weekend that happens in October, and that's where it all started. So we do that every year. It's a huge fundraiser for us. We do several cycling programs throughout the year. So we try to do a lot of things to really get the community involved and active and aware of adaptive and disabled sport.
Awesome. So, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but like the San Diego Triathlon and all these trides and stuff, a lot of that is fundraising. And then is access for athletes how you spend most of the money, like as an organization, is on your mission?
It is, yeah. It's a big part of it, and the Access for Athletes grant program it's definitely our flagship. It's where the organization got its start, and it's the biggest distribution or way in which we help people with a physical challenge to have access to sports and athletics. And so I'm sure we can get more into kind of what the grant program is, but yes, that's the biggest outreach piece that we do have, and then our camps and clinics also kind of help support that as well as some other programs.
Awesome.
Dwight, a couple questions before we get too deep into the program itself or even more about the organization. Patrick, how did you come to get involved? You said you've only been in San Diego a few years, a couple years with CAF. What brought you to CAF?
Yeah, I took a really indirect route, actually. I was in Oklahoma City and had gone through a Master's of Athletic Training program at the University of Central Oklahoma. That completed in 2013. I was kind of in the midst of a career change and something I had always wanted to do. And so once I finished that program, there was an opening for an athletic trainer to help cover the national men's and women's sitting volleyball program, which was hosted at the University of Oklahoma. That was the official residency training site for that program at the time. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Paralympic sitting volleyball is obviously a Paralympic sport. It's an adaptive sport, but also something that able-bodied individuals can play. But at the national and international level, it's Paralympic. So it's largely an amputee-based sport. It was my first exposure to any sort of adaptive or Paralympic sport. And so I got up every morning at 5:30 and went to the gym, and I covered practices and took care of any bumps and bruises and worked with the athletes on rehab, etc. While I was doing that, I worked with the gentleman who now works with me at CAF, or I now work with him, Travis Ricks. And Travis has been at CAF for 9 years now, and he's on the men's national sitting volleyball team. So when I moved to San Diego after a year covering the teams in Oklahoma City, Travis was my only connection in San Diego. And so I kind of reached out to him and said, hey, let's get a program going, to help you train, for national team competition, and then also just to kind of get something going in the community. I really didn't have a job at the time. And so I worked with Travis on that sitting volleyball program in San Diego. We continued to kind of work together on some CAF stuff with myself in more of a volunteer role. And then about 2 years ago, this time on the calendar, they needed some help on a part-time basis, which turned into a full-time position, and here I am. Been doing it for 2 years.
Awesome. I love that. So what do you, I think CAF, the mission, it seems to me, in everything you do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the mission is sort of like to show people that it's possible and to get people moving, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So why is that so important?
We really do organizationally feel that sport and activity and athletics are essential to life. It's not something that should be, it's not frivolous. We see it as a valued and very important part of each person's existence. And the problem that a lot of people encounter is that, if you're someone who has a disability, there are barriers that an able-bodied individual may not have. And when it comes to funding for equipment, especially that you might need in order to participate in a sport due to a disability, your insurance isn't going to help pay for that. There are multiple barriers that prevent that. Insurances won't pay for a running prosthetic. They won't pay for a recumbent trike or a hand cycle, which is very frustrating for the people who really need to get those in order to participate in the things they want to do. And so that's kind of where we come in. We help with funding for adaptive equipment or non-adaptive equipment, but things that people do need to get involved in sports and athletics. And then additionally, we help fund coaching and training expenses through the grant program, as well as travel and competition expenses. So we really try to help remove some financial barriers through our grant program that get people active and involved in sports and athletics at every level, from someone who's just getting started to Paralympic level athletes.
Wow.
Nice.
It's a pretty amazing overall program when you think about it. A lot going on.
So, Patrick, you mentioned a few different things, running legs and recumbent trikes and training fees and stuff like that. I know that's not all. Can you give us a few more details on some of the stuff that you fund through Access for Athletes?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at our grant program, we really break it down into kind of three buckets, if you will. So the first being an equipment grant. We've discussed that to some degree, where it's largely adaptive equipment, which is going to cover recumbent tracks, hand cycle, sport wheelchairs. So a basketball wheelchair, a tennis wheelchair, wheelchair MX wheelchairs. I don't know how familiar people are with wheelchair MX. That's a growing sport where individuals use kind of fortified wheelchairs to go to skate parks. And they're doing all sorts, dropping into bowls, they're riding rails, really, really cool and dynamic stuff. We do grants for those. We do grants for more traditional items. Bicycles. If someone has a visual impairment, tandem bicycles, so they have a stoker that rides with it. Or even an amputee or an individual that might have some limitations that just needs a regular bicycle. We do regular bikes. We do, trying to think of what else. Surf community is big, so we'll do surfboards. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of the appropriate name for it. But it's where you're seated on a wave ski, where you get seated on a surfboard and use a paddle, like a paddleboard. We really span a really broad variety. Of course, the prosthetic grants, I kind of mentioned those. We do running prosthetics exclusively for individuals that need running prosthetics. And then we also do just non-adaptive equipment as needed. We grant a lot of different pieces. We do have, fortunately, several vendors that we work with that are helpful in giving us some discounts on what we can do. So we help to kind of stretch our grant dollars. And through that, we get wheelchair racing chairs, we get wheelchair rugby chairs, throwing chairs for track and field. Pretty much just across the board. We've done pretty much any kind of sport equipment that you could throw at me. I've probably seen it at some point.
That is really cool.
Then,
you mentioned a few pieces that I don't even know about, so I'm gonna be busy Googling a little bit after this conversation.
Yeah. When you get to the application form, we've got a pretty extensive drop-down list of all the things that we're able to offer through our vendors, and if we don't offer it, then you can write it in, and we'll do our best to help you fund at least some of it, if not all of it. So, yeah.
Cool.
So the other two buckets, if you will, are where I mentioned the coaching and training fees option, and that is can cover a personal trainer, gym fees. It can cover training equipment. To some degree, we won't get real deep into that because it's a little more equipment oriented. But if you need some help, kind of doing coaching training. If you're an athlete that needs to hone their skills a little bit more, maybe paying for a coach that's going to help you to get faster, get stronger, whatever the case may be, and we can offer that as one of our grant options. And then the last one being the travel and competition expenses, which is for a pretty broad variety. We have a large group of athletes with a visual impairment who apply for the Beat Baseball World Series every year, and they all get together. There's, I can't remember, 12 to 15, maybe 18 teams that play every year. Beat Baseball. There's a blind bowling national tournament every year. There's a lot of the qualifiers for the junior track and field circuit. So National Junior Disability Challenge this year it was in Wisconsin. The Endeavor Games is an annual program that happens in Edmond, Oklahoma every year. So there's a lot of different options all the way up to Paralympic qualifiers. We get requests for just about anything and everything to help people that want to compete to get to their events and to compete in them. And so the grant in that case would cover flight or rental car, hotels, food, lodging on the trip. And so that all kind of falls under that travel and competition umbrella.
I love hearing all of it because when you have somebody that's up against all these challenges that we talk about, oftentimes it's not just, I don't have the right bike. It really is, I don't know how to do it. I don't have the right training. I don't have a vehicle to get me there. I can't travel. There's all these different little barriers, and it sounds like CAF is really helping eliminate as many barriers as possible, and I love hearing that.
Yeah, we really do try. we generally get a pretty good amount of applicants. We're fortunate that we're able to fund. The trend has been about 85% of the grants, which is really cool. We'd love to get to 100% at some point. The great thing about it is that we're getting more people applying. We're getting new applicants. We get people who return year after year, and our applications are outpacing our funding sometimes. And so we're trying to make sure that we can give as many meaningful grants as we can give on an annual basis. And so if we can't help completely, we try to help as much as we can across the board.
That's so great. And, the thing I love about, you were listing all the different things that you guys have funded before, and the thing I love about that conversation, that hearing you say all those things, is that, like, when you're disabled, say you get injured or diagnosed with a disease, or, for whatever reason, you feel limited, and that's the overwhelming feeling. And when you hear about, like, for me, I never knew that it would ever be possible for me to ride a bike under my own power again. And when I saw somebody on a trike, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I can do that. And so I think a lot of times for someone with a disability, it's just a matter of being like, hey, this is possible. You could do this. Why don't you give it a try? And I love that about what CAF is doing. And in a lot of the social media stuff, too, you see people that are running, on a prosthetic leg or, riding a hand cycle or something. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, I might be able to do that and have a lot of fun and not feel so limited. I love that.
Yeah, that's a great thing, and that's the highlight of what we can offer. And I think it's a cool thing about the way that we do offer our funding is that we kind of let you color in your own box to say, how is a grant going to help me? Well, it's a very individualized process. If it's a recumbent trike, it's going to get you out there and doing things, being active, improving your physical and mental health, then let's help you get there. And so that the individualization of offering an individual grant is a great thing that we're able to kind of help provide, because you can kind of chart your own course, which is really cool.
Awesome. All right, so we have a decent description of what the grant program is. Who is able to apply? Like, what are the rules to be able to apply for it?
Yeah, so the rules are that the main rule is that the individual who applies has a permanent physical disability. And we've got a list on the website. I'll spare you reading it off to you because it's kind of lengthy. But it's the short version is that if it's an individual that requires some assistance because of a physical disability, then we consider you eligible for the application process. There's a few forms that are required as you fill out the application. Primary of those being the medical letter of reference from a physician, nurse, OT, PT, prosthetist, someone who can vouch for the fact that the individual does have a permanent physical challenge. There is a personal letter of reference that's required from a coach, a mentor, teammate, coworker, someone who can vouch for the individual's character, their participation in adaptive or sport in any capacity, and then also their need for a grant. We also require a couple of photos because we want to see what the applicant has been doing in sport. And then financial. We do try to base this on financial need since it is a grant program. And so there's financial requirements where we ask for upload of documents that show an individual's annual income. So a W-2, a 1040, in some cases, if needed, Social Security information or Social Security disability information. So an award letter, if someone has one of those, just so we have a little bit of an idea of what the financial situation is for that person. those are the main pieces that we require, and then the rest of it is it's all an online form where the applicant fills in some questions. There's a biography can be written. There's some other aspects that kind of help us get a picture of who that person is and how sports and athletics affects their life and how he or she could benefit from a grant.
Nice. So, I know there's some wheels spinning out there in people's heads, hopefully, who are listening to this right now. So where can they go online to find out more, or maybe even start an application? Because I believe the application opened on September 1st. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct. Yes. And the easiest thing to do is just go to our homepage. There will be, as you look across the top of the screen, there'll be a tag that says programs. And as you scroll to programs, there's a drop down and it'll say grants. And so on the grants page, there will be a big button that says apply here or apply now. And that'll take you to a link that will open up the application form. That's the easiest way to get there. And then once the application form has been accessed, the applicant enters a email address and a password, and you're off to the races. You start filling everything out. There's several upload tasks. We're really kind of excited that this year's application form is a little more dynamic than one we've had in the past. So I'm hoping that everyone will find it a good experience. It's a little more friendly with mobile devices now, phones and tablets, because not everybody has laptops and desktops, and so that was a consideration in how we created the form this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it's received by the community, hopefully favorably.
So the application process is open right now. When does it close?
December 1. Yeah.
And then just out of curiosity, Patrick, how long does it normally take for you guys for your decision process? When do you release sort of your answers to fulfilling grants or perhaps tabling some?
Yeah, that'll all come out in early April. We traditionally, once we shut things down December 1, we spend that time really going through and thoroughly reviewing these grants, and we're doing all the work in-house to get things ready for distribution at that point. So we always get the awards out April 1 or around there, and then after that we're working on next steps for distribution of the various types of grants to get those in the hands of the people that are being awarded.
You know, you were talking about the online dynamic application and, mobile and stuff. And I was thinking back to my Challenge Athletes Foundation grant. And when I applied, I did it on paper. I literally put together a package of paper and had my mom fill it out because my handwriting's not very good. And, put it in the mail, and someone physically held it and looked at it.
Kyle, how old are you, man? No, I'm kidding.
No, that wasn't that long ago. That was 2009, so.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm told. Of course, that predates my time at CAF, but yeah, in the old days, yeah, it was paper and pen, and it was transcribed, and I think they put a lot of that in Excel sheets, and so it was this new process is a little bit quicker for everybody. I cannot imagine with as much as I do on the grant process having all that be pen and paper. So I applaud those that were ahead of me and championed this cause before we were able to put it online.
Especially when you think about over 1,900 applications that you awarded, not that you had read. You probably read a whole lot more than that, but yeah. When you think about over 1,900 that you're having to go through on paper, that could take up a lot of space in an office.
And I was just thinking, my application was probably 20 or 30 sheets of paper, and just think about 2,000 of those sitting in a room.
Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely made a greener process. That's a good thing.
That's great. So what do you look for in a great grant application? For potential applicants out there, what do you want to see?
Several things. One of the things that we definitely want to see is a financial need. And honestly, guys, with the community that we serve, it's rarely the case that someone doesn't have a financial need, just because of the individual's disability. There's extenuating circumstances. There's other other costs that people incur that have a physical disability. That it's pretty rare that that's not the case. But we do want to see that. We want to see that there's a need. If someone is asking for equipment, say that they're looking either to get their first piece of equipment, or perhaps it's an upgrade in some cases. We want to see that they're active and participating in sport. There's a common misconception about CAF that we only fund high level athletes and Paralympians, and that's not the case at all. That's probably a lower percentage of the athletes that we fund are kind of in that elite and higher status. We would love to get someone their first piece of equipment or fund their first trip to the gym or their first competition and get them started and get them involved in the adaptive sport community. And so we're looking for some inroads there. We want to see if people are participating. We want to see that they're doing some mentorship, that they're doing some paying it forward, if you will. They're involved in their community. They're giving back. There's a component in there where it asks about community service. How are you contributing to your community? So all of those things could really build toward improving an individual's score. The basic stuff that I spoke of earlier is all there. The medical letter of reference, you get scored points for that. For the personal letter of reference, there's those things that are mandatory that there's points indicated for that. But you get more points if you're really active and you're doing things and contributing to your community and to adaptive sport.
So I have a question going back to, you talk about the common misperception that you guys only fund elite athletes. When you talk about wanting to help fund the first trip to the gym at the first piece of equipment, how are you guys considering or looking at the applications in that regard? Because I also know the application process wants to know what you're doing in the world of sport. So are you guys looking at maybe how people convey their goals to be involved, or how are you helping make the connection there between wanting to do sport and needing the first piece of equipment to carry through with that desire?
Yeah, you bet. There's a section in there where it asks about short and long-term goals. And so that's definitely a part that we take into consideration, kind of where you are on your athletic journey. Are you just getting a start? If you are and you need help, we want to further that. We want to give you the opportunities to keep moving forward. If you're on the cusp of making a national team, we want to help with that too. Like I said, guys, it's rare that we decline a grant. We want to help you at whatever level you're at. As an athlete, we want to get you, we want to keep you involved or get you to that next level. Something that I hear a lot as I go to conferences and just talk with people in the public is, I'm not an athlete, or what makes me an athlete? And, I commonly tell people, you're an athlete, whether you know it yet or you don't know it. If you have to ask that question, then maybe we just need to get you connected with the right kind of people that are going to bring that out of you. Because if your heart's beating, if you're moving, if you have a desire to be active, you're an athlete. And then we want to help you with the next steps so you realize that as well.
Awesome. I love that.
That's a good way to think of it. If you're breathing and you have a desire to move, you're an athlete. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage anyone who's listening to apply because Challenge Athletes Foundation does, like Patrick said, it's rare. He even said it's rare that they deny an application. I know a bunch of my friends with FA that have been funded. I know several people who've been funded multiple times. Patrick, how much money does CAF dedicate to Access for Athletes every year?
It varies a little bit. The past couple of years where I've been involved, we've given out, and all, not just Access for Athletes, because we grant in other areas as well. So I'll give you kind of an overview. But I think the past couple of years we've given out in the neighborhood of about $3.2 million in grants. Wow. And that's Access for Athletes. That's our Operation Rebound program, which is specific to military, both active duty and retired, U.S. military, police, fire, paramedics, Coast Guard. It's kind of a little umbrella underneath our larger organization. We have other grant opportunities, other things that we give out throughout the year that aren't as quite as highly publicized. But over the course of the year, we'll give out probably a total of well over 2,000 grants, probably more in the neighborhood of 22 to 2,500 grants, and $2 to $3.5 million worth of grants every year.
Wow, that's amazing. So, if I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, yeah, that's great, but I probably won't get it. No, like, apply and see what happens. I mean, there's no harm in it. Put a little bit of effort in it and, see what's out there. And please do apply for Challenge Athletes Foundation. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Patrick.
No, not at all. Not at all. And the cool thing about it, and I think both of you are well aware of this, is that once you get involved in sport, you become part of the community. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, that's really such a huge part of your physical and your emotional wellness. I think for all the benefits that people get physically from sport, I'm not sure that the greater good doesn't come from all the people that you meet that are either involved in what you do, are volunteering to facilitate what you do. That's really where we see some amazing connections made. And I'm blown away in just a couple of years of doing this at how supportive, how loving, how welcoming this community is. And getting people involved in adaptive sport. And it's something that after having a couple of different career changes in my life, I'm finding that this is really something I want to stick with and something I'm really passionate about, because it's one of my colleagues said in an email this week, something I thought was very, very poignant, and something to the tune of, remember that you get to distribute joy as a career. Yeah. In doing what it is that we do, you facilitate that process. And so, that part of it is really cool. We have our annual triathlon challenge. We have families that we maybe don't see for a year, but we can count on seeing them then. And it's like a family reunion. Everyone kind of rolls in and we catch up on what's happened in the past year. And, there's been emails and phone calls and things like that. But once you kind of get involved in that community, that's a really huge thing, and it just facilitates more and more participation and more connections and growth, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I love that. And you mentioned beyond the physical and the community that is created around sport, and I also think, I think you'd probably agree that just internally, like within somebody, like find somebody believing in themselves, holy cow, I can do this. And, just feeling so much empowerment. I think that for me, that was a huge part of what it means to be involved in athletics, and to think of myself as an athlete. What, like that? I know I didn't think I was an athlete. I'm disabled. I have no business being an athlete, right? But I think that's a big aspect of the value of sport, is just like the empowerment that somebody feels within themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, you summed that up nicely. That's kind of who we are. We want to facilitate that and believe that as a core value of CAF and what it is that we do.
Awesome.
I was going to ask a question, but I'm just going to answer it for you, Patrick. I was playing around on your website briefly, and I know that we have listeners all over the world, a handful in Australia, a bunch in Europe, and all over. And one thing I've noticed is that your grant awards are not limited to the United States. Talk for a minute about that. It looks like you guys actually fund in a bunch of different countries every year.
Yeah, we do. Gosh, I'm trying to remember the exact number. I think we gave grants in the neighborhood of 80 different countries last year.
Wow.
And so it's something where we do give funding. Now, the bulk of the applications we get are from the United States, but we do give grants all over the world. I will say, just full disclosure for your international listeners, hello everybody, that we do run into issues with regard to equipment grants for overseas applicants. Just in that, all of our distributors that we work with are in the United States, and the expense of an applicant who has been awarded an equipment grant to have it shipped overseas is just way more than what most people can really afford. So we tend to, on our overseas grants, our international grants, we tend to do more financial assistance on those because we can transfer funds a lot easier than we can send equipment. That said, however, please do apply if there's something that we can help you with, because we definitely do want to help out if we can. And I'm also, that's a goal of mine in the coming years, to see how we can work through some of that and find some distributors that are not solely based within the United States, so we can start increasing the amount of stuff that we can offer for people that are applying from outside of the U.S. But we have little pockets in other parts of the world where people are creating their own little CAF communities, and it's a really cool thing to see. The surf community is very international. I mean, it's U.S. based, but it has a very international flavor to it. We do a lot of surf grants every year, so that's one that's kind of growing, and we definitely want to see it as international applicants for sure. So send those in.
I just love the reach that the Challenge Athletes Foundation has. I think you guys are doing amazing things, and I love hearing about the impact you're having on several different communities in several different areas of the world.
Me too.
Yeah. We're really fortunate to be able to do what it is that we do.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, are you hiring?
We get that question a lot. Yeah. I could use some help. We run a pretty tight ship. We're our San Diego office is usually 25, 26-ish, I think, and then we have two off-site individuals. One in San Francisco, Oakland area as a director of development, and then one in the New Jersey area also, who we're trying to help them kind of build what it is that they're doing. Another little unique piece that I can share with you is that we're really working closely with the YMCA. We're trying to build more partnerships with them. We're really fortunate that our San Diego County YMCAs have for several years now offered a free membership to athletes with physical challenges. they kind of route that through us. And we've been able to expand that to a few more cities. We're looking to do that a little bit more, in that our mission statements are very much aligned between CAF and the YMCA. And so that's another cool piece where we can kind of tap into what the community can offer in terms of rallying around fitness and sport and athletics, and just building a community of wellness. And so they've been a fantastic partner for us.
I've really enjoyed the conversation, Patrick. Thank you so much for sharing so many details about what you guys are doing and how you're helping improve really the quality of life for so many people.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. We're, like I've said numerous times, we're very fortunate to be able to do what it is that we do. And the more we can share that message with people and have them get involved in their communities, that's what we want to see. That we want to hear that. We want to see it on social media. We want to get feedback from people as they're participating with their grants. I feel like it's really it's more than just grants. It's the building of communities and getting us all with a common goal of moving forward the idea of adaptive sport and the movement, as it were.
Love it. All right, Patrick. Well, we are going to post the link for Challenge Athletes Foundation and the specific link where people can apply for a Challenge Athletes Foundation equipment grant and training and travel grant. So we will post all that stuff to our website, and we really just thank you personally for all you do for the disabled community and the sport community, and thank you for everything you're doing with CAF.
Thank you, guys, and please don't ever hesitate to call or get in touch with any needs, requests, anything I can do or CAF can do to help out. Please get in touch with me. Always happy to help and always happy to talk about what it is that we do.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Find us online at twodisableddudes.com, and please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts.
We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.